Hi, my name's Steve Boaldin, and I'm a cowboy artist. Hi, my name's Steve Boaldin, and I'm a cowboy artist. Hi, I'm Steve Boaldin, and I'm a cowboy artist. Today we're going to Elkhart, Kansas to explore my family's ranch, the 3 Point Ranch. Today we're traveling to Minko, Oklahoma to visit a good friend of mine, another artist, John Rule. Today we're going to D&H Cattle Company in Ardmore, Oklahoma. You know, there's a story behind every one of my paintings. This program is about those stories and my search to find them. I travel to ranches across the country to see cowboys in action and to gather authentic material for my paintings.
It's an important show. Not only is it entertaining, but it depicts people's life in a whole different way. Steve, he goes down the road and he's right there with them and shows their story, but then he shows it through his art.
You need humor, you need to be entertained, you need lightheartedness, and Steve Boaldin is all of that. It's funny, but yet right in the middle of that you'll get like a real serious, and then it comes back to some skills that you might learn if you're an artist. It's just got all these different facets within it, that there's something that everyone's gonna love.
If you wanna watch a show that's real, it shows not only kind of his talent, but also the agriculture and the background behind it. You should check it out.
It's something they can relate to, and you get to see all the different ways everybody does things. Everybody deals with their cattle a different way for where they're at. Even if you didn't just want to watch it for the mere fact that you get to watch all this cool painting and all the art and all the different ways that things can turn out on paper, you can even just watch it simply for the fact of seeing how people do things a different way, and it'll give you your own ideas of kind of how to change things up.
It's a Western art, and it shows how we handle the cattle and live on the ranch and how they dress. He puts everything in there that he can. You ought to see it. It's really a neat show.
He cares about other people, and he incorporates other people's talents and their gifts and their character into his shows, and I think that's what sells these shows. He's about promoting all those around him and encouraging and being uplifting, and has this good sense of humor, and they're just very fun to watch.
Art of the Cowboy is my buddy. He's going around different ranches and showing how we do things. And then while he's there, he's teaching you how to paint. I think he's capturing the history of the cowboy.
So there's an art out there that cattlemen are able to do on the ranches, and the art that portrays that my brother is good at. And so when he could actually capture what's going on in the ranch and put it on canvas, then it would come to life. You're looking at it from that perspective, gives you a whole new, broader view of what you're a part of.
I grew up in Elkhart, Kansas, a nice small town here in Kansas, right on the border, right between Oklahoma, Kansas, and Colorado. And it's pretty neat because our house is the last house in the state of Kansas. You walk across the road, you're in Oklahoma, and you drive 3 miles down the road and you're in Colorado. And that's why this is called 3 Point Ranch. It was a great community when I was a child. I always thought it was large, you know. Now I come back and I can kind of tell it's a lot smaller to me, but it's a good town. I look back on it now and don't realize what a good life I had here growing up. I always can't wait to come back and see the family. I think it's really cool. It kind of brings me back to my roots. So we're gonna go down here and get the horses in, right?
Yeah, we'll go down here and get horses and
Okay.
see if they're ready to do some work today.
Yeah. You gotta drive them in up here at the pasture?
Yeah, I'll grab the folder, just run them in just right quick this morning.
Okay.
Turned them out last night, so
They're all over here, and then you bring them in and then we saddle them right here.
yeah.
Okay.
Tack room looks like Dana's here this morning, ready to go.
Yeah, he's ready.
I think my boys are about ready to go, so we
Wes,
better get ourselves ready to go.
Better get going, huh?
Yeah,
Burning a little
they're
day.
waiting on us. We might let them do all the work, but you know,
I think that's a good idea. We're just around to have fun, right?
yeah. Yeah, we can go get. I'll get the folder, and then we can start getting tack out and get our. We got to get our medicine and all that packed up, so we can
Okay.
go over there. So
Okay.
I'll show you where that's at. We can load it on this pickup, or load it on the one with the trailer. So
Okay. All right.
we'll both be going over there, both rigs. So
Sounds good.
all right, we'll go get it.
All right.
These two are good. Booms and. What else we got? Well, I guess Weston, they got theirs already, so I think that'll do it for now.
Have enough horses for people to ride?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, I'll go. Yeah, okay, I'll grab the folder and meet you over there.
All right. Meet you
Okay.
at the gate. All right there, kid. Get you warmed up. I'm not thawing, so get used to me this morning before I saddle you up. Boy, used to me. All clean. Ready to put the saddle on. Do some roping today. There, kid. Hope we show up. You know what I mean? I'm sure you'll show up. It's a matter of me showing up. Now, I'm gonna look at this breast collar, make sure it's kind of centered up. I want him to take it up. Everywhere I go, put him on a different horse, and when you don't center it up, you go to pull on the cuff. This breast collar will keep your saddle from sliding back. So I'm going to take it up a notch on this side so it centers up on his chest. That way it's not hard on him, keeps him centered and balanced up. That's part of it. You got to really check your rig out first, make sure you don't have anything poking him. Don't want to get into a rodeo in the middle of roping calves. Riding broncs and roping is not too good a combination. All right, I think he's ready to go.
Babe, I'll let you catch your horse down here. Babe's ready to go. Here's your bridle.
Dwayne's gonna ride by today?
Bay, yeah, he's got Bay today. He's ready to go today. He's first one out.
Ready to go. Well, I like the color on that horse, Don, you're going to be riding today.
Yeah, I really like her flax mane tail and stuff.
You look good on her.
Oh,
She
thanks.
looks good on her saddle.
Something needs to make me look good. I don't know what it is.
Me too.
Yeah. I'll let you grab yours.
Okay.
I'll grab Boone behind you.
Okay.
All right, we better ask the blessing to keep us safe today, right? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you today. We thank you so much for your blessings to us in this great country we live in. Lord, we pray that we have a safe day, a fun day, and the horses and animals and people all stay well, and we just give you the glory, and just thank you for that. In Jesus' name we do pray, amen.
Amen.
Steve was always a little different as far as what we thought, but we didn't realize he had this artist instinct, so that kind of made him just a little bit different. He, everything that he saw on TV, he would go out and duplicate that and play that same thing out the next day. And so his imagination was extraordinary, and he noticed a lot of detail and things that we didn't understand because he was just that observant.
He was a sweetheart, but it seemed like he was sleepy all the time. He even went to sleep when he was eating, when he was a baby. He was just so laid back. And later we learned that when we couldn't find him, that he probably was asleep somewhere. And we would go out and look, and there he was in the hay or alongside the ditch where he'd wrecked his bicycle and just fell over in his dream world. He was playing cowboys and Indians on the hay and got shot, and he'd land in the hay, and his horse would just stand there, old Cisco, and be just standing there waiting for him to, but Steve just kind of got in his dream world and went to sleep. So.
He had a lot of creativity and planned our imaginary trips around the farm, including getting our horses exactly looking like they were on Bonanza, or him looking exactly like Davy Crockett. And we would argue over who rides what horse, especially if you were the Lone Ranger and Tonto. One of them you got to ride bareback and one of you got to ride the saddle. We'd find a place out in the pasture and we would pretend to the hilt. We'd build the imaginary campfire, eat the imaginary food, and fight off the imaginary Indians. So that was a lot that I remember about Steve and I.
He liked to draw, and he drew a lot of things that were kind of funny, but he didn't realize it. But we got a lot of laughs out of his art. And then he had a good teacher in high school, and she really took a lot of interest in him. So that encouraged him. And then he got married and moved back in a trailer down the road and decided he'd farm with us for a while. But he just didn't last. He just wanted to do something else. They had their family, or started their family, and we didn't get to see him as often as we'd like. But I truly don't think he was that interested in farming, because what he wanted to do was draw pictures and do things like that.
He was always a cowboy. He looked the part, he always did the part. But we raised cattle out here. That's what we did every day. I mean, we have horses right out here in the pasture, and Steve always liked horses. I learned a lot from Steve, mostly what not to do. I always loved to go up to his room, because he was kind of an adventurist, I called him, because he, he always had coyote skins and snake skins hanging up in his room, you know, and I always thought it was real cool, you know. So, you know, as I got older, I did some of the same things because, you know, my brother Steve did that.
I can remember when he was a kid, he'd always just kind of play off by himself and very content. He had an imaginary playmate he even wrestled with and talked to and stuff. We could look out in the yard and see him talking to this little imaginary friend. And he went behind the shed and dug a hole and put boards across the top. He had his own little cave under there. And one day he might be Daniel Boone, and the next day he would be some cowboy or Indian or something. He just made his own knives out of just old pieces of metal. He stood for hours at my dad's grinder in the shed, made his own knives, put bone handles on them, wood handles, taped them up, and just they got better and better as he went. But it was real to him. It was a real world.
Jump. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not the magical Weston. Weston's got a better cat.
Yeah, I need my lucky jumper over here.
Yeah, that's right.
Lucky jumper, Weston.
Jump.
There it is.
Right.
Oh, I got it. You got it.
Except when I was little, you didn't really jerk that.
Yeah, jerk it.
Thon and Steve's relationship was so special. They laugh when they're together. They can have serious conversations. If Thon had something going on in his life that he really needed to talk to someone about, he's gonna call Steve.
We had a beanbag in the house that every time I come running through there, he would wipe me out with it. You know, of course, it became a ritual. You know, I loved it too. You know, or he's always roping me, you know, whatever. If I had a friend over, him and his friend Dana would rope us, you know, all the time. They loved harassing us, I think, because we were little guys that liked being roped. You know, they'd rope us, and of course they enjoyed that part too. You know, and just kind of practice really. But I always just remember Steve as just always being a lot of fun.
Thon looks up to Steve a lot because Steve has followed a passion that he has that is not just limited to ranching, just limited to driving a tractor, you know. He was a little bit of a black sheep growing up, and he kept that and followed his dreams and became an artist, and that's something that's pretty amazing, and Thon respects him for that. Just hit it off right away. I loved his humor. I loved his passion for people and just to be kind.
Try one more time.
I got a smaller brimmed hat too.
No, you might need like a little needle point, something up there.
Get a cone.
No, I should have stepped towards you further.
Gotcha.
Didn't have my distance just right. Well, partially, yeah, you need that small brim one.
Oh, my Uncle Steve. He's always been the funny uncle. You know, I think of him a lot like my brother.
Oh, no. Too much. We'll get there maybe.
You know, you're going to get some good stories, and it seems like anything that's always something funny happens to Steve, and so that's kind of what I think of when I think of Steve.
Okay.
10 times the charm.
There it is.
I'm Steve Boaldin. I'm a cowboy artist.
Well, I didn't know Steve until we were in high school, and he was like a year ahead of me in high school. So we met. I was a football manager, and he played football. So we met riding back and forth football games on a bus. He was cool. I wanted to be Steve. Because he just had that cool persona, just like he still does. And I knew he was a cowboy, and I always wanted to be one. I'd rode horses all my life, but I hadn't been around cattle. And he started bringing me out here all the time, and pretty soon they couldn't get rid of me.
Well, I had a great experience growing up here because, you know, when you were a kid here, there really wasn't as much restrictions as there are nowadays. My parents pretty well gave us a free rein. Once we started learning to drive the tractor and ride horses and stuff, you know, they kind of let you figure it out yourself. Of course, you had a lot of training after that, too. They put us in horsemanship and all these things that a lot of people would just die for now, to learn how to ride. I look back, and if I didn't have that, I wouldn't be able to do what I do today.
We're like brothers. He taught me how to rope, he taught me how to ride. We started breaking horses together. And I broke my first horse with Steve. It just was awesome to have a cool friend like that. And like I came out here and I learned the cowboy deal. I always wanted my own. I do have my own cows now. So I'm actually getting to live life. And what Steve always said is, cowboys in here, whether you actually get to do it or not.
We had some home movies that kind of brought back the first memories of my mom and dad starting out. And they drug in an old house from somewhere. There was just a 2-room shack and parked right where we're sitting here today. They started out with hardly anything, but they were very happy.
We were first married, we were just kids, 17 and 19. And we moved out here, and his parents lived 2 miles from us. And we had rented this piece of ground right here where the house is and started farming for our neighbor down east of us.
Right down the road from this house was some people called the Hardwicks, and they had that little place, and they allowed my dad to put a place right here, and he farmed and for Hardwicks, and he farmed for my grandmother.
We had to borrow machinery, and we raised broom corn the first year. So it was a lot of work for both of us. But we made a broom corn crop, enough to buy a kitchen stove. I helped Johnny in the field a lot, and I enjoyed it because I think if you know what each other's doing, you're happier. And so we both helped each other.
My dad would go out and do the work, but my mom would take care of the kids and be right there with him every step of the way. And they were truly a team, or they had a partnership. And as far as us kids, what we took away from that is that you do need each other. They needed more help, more hands. And it was just expected that we go start doing the chores, or we start running a tractor, or all of us eventually had to have a horse so that we could be part of moving those cattle.
Well, my dad had a great impact on us kids because he was really instilled a lot of strength in us because he was a driven man. And I think that he created us, to be driven. But he was all about getting the job done, doing a good job, making straight rows when he farmed. He wanted his farm to look good and make his the people he leased it from, very proud of how good a farmer as he was, And so he instilled that kind of thing about doing your best, whatever you do. And so I think that's a big, strong point for me.
We had a few cattle to start with. And my dad started out with like 40 or 50 cows eventually. But then in 1962, when my brother Steve, actually the day he was born, my mom and dad bought the Colorado Ranch, and I was in kindergarten, and that changed everything. That's when we actually got full-time into a bigger cattle operation. They bought the ranch, they bought the grassland, they bought about 250 cows between my grandfather and them, and the whole cattle side of our farm and ranch changed right at that point in time.
Our favorite thing was to work cattle together as a family, and even our grandparents were involved in all of that, and then we all had our jobs to do. Us kids mostly pushed the cattle forward at first in this old rickety corrals that was splinters, and I remember falling off on a nail on an old board and pushing cattle through, and sometimes incidents happened, but everybody had a job. My grandma kept records, and my mom gave the shots, and my dad did castrating, and my grandpa did the branding and daubed them with oil, and it was quite a deal. As kids got where we could rope, and we'd rope off of the fence first, and then later we got where we could rope off our horses and stuff.
I didn't think we were that much different than anybody else. Growing up out here was obviously a great bonus. Looking back, it was obviously a wonderful childhood. We were always outside on horses, and actually just acting as part of the team and where we fit into that role and helping the family farm survive.
We had not a lot of wealth, so if we wanted a horse, we would take our show steers that we would sell once a year, and we'd get to keep that money. We'd pool our money to buy one kid a horse. Eventually, we would all have a horse we'd call our own. So whenever it come time to handle the cattle, it was just a natural given that we'd get our horses together and we'd be the crew that would gather and handle the cattle and work the cattle. And it was something we enjoyed and didn't even realize how valuable that was because it was just part of our life.
My husband loved what he did, and the kids fell right in and helped a lot. Lana got married, and Mark stayed and helped farm. And of course, he got married too, and they lived on the grandparents' place and helped us for a few years. He was old enough to want to do things on his own, Then Thon came along, and seemed like all the others had their places in life. He came along, it was time to try to give up the farm, and Thon was just the right age. He liked the farm, and so he took over.
It come down to timing, really for me as far as the youngest sibling to take over the farming, and it's just in our blood, I think. The house grew and the farm grew, and The Lord blessed him, and so and here we are today as trying to keep it going.
I always had a passion to draw. When I was a kid, I don't know why, I just felt the need to draw everything I thought. Whatever I was into, that's what I would draw for some reason. I just wanted to get into the spirit of what I thought I could envision myself as, and pencil and paper were the way that I kind of acted it out.
Well, I probably didn't appreciate what he had because I didn't understand, and why he was just a little bit different, because his perception of things was a little bit different. But yeah, it's true that he was always acting out something on a Western he saw on TV, or then he would take it and he'd be drawing it out. And we saw right away that he was able to put things in perspective with his pencil.
I can kind of remember first seeing Steve draw pictures. He drew a picture when he was a little kid, and I don't know about how old he was, 2nd grade, 3rd grade. I think they were supposed to tell where sausage came from. And he had this picture of a pig, and it had all these sausages coming out in the rear end of this pig. He has a picture of that, and that's just his little boy idea of where the sausage came from, a pig.
I don't remember him ever going, "Hey, look what I did today," or anything like that. It was just a matter of, that's just what Steve did. And until he got through art school and stuff, we really just probably didn't realize, yeah, he's good at art, but we're busy working, and he was part of that, and all of a sudden that just kind of bloomed.
Every time I'd see another artist or people drawing, I thought, that is really cool. That's what I want to do. Now, I didn't know I wasn't serious about it or anything. I just liked doing it. And then my grandmother, she was very interested in what I was doing, and she had been taking a lot of art classes and painting classes already. And she started buying me some Walter Foster books, and there was a lot of drawings in there, and I would just copy them and copy them and copy them, and most of them that I really enjoyed were horses. Horses meant a lot to me. So that's kind of always has been my passion, is horses need to be in about every painting.
A lot of it he was self-taught, I think. He had some beginner lessons somewhere, but he just had a natural gift, and we knew it. And so we all encouraged him.
When I was 18, I started learning how to paint. For some reason, when I started taking lessons and looking around, I knew that this was what I wanted to do. It was something I prayed about and would just stay up and work and go maybe 2 hours to sleep at night, just because I would get so into it.
He had some really good sketches, but after he come back from his first schooling and stuff, he came up with some paintings, some steer roping paintings and some of that, and some of these, and I thought they were really good. Of course, today he would tell you, he can pick them all apart, and tell you that it's not as good, but it's an art. It's everything we do, from the cowboy roping to whatever, it is an art, and Steve has a way of putting it from in the field to on the canvas, and that's really cool.
I used to come out in the evenings and watch him paint for hours. We'd sit there and talk, and he'd paint. I knew he was going to be good from the first time I saw him, or saw his work. I always wanted to draw good. I can draw, but I can't draw like that. My mom was an art teacher, my dad was a band teacher, and I got half of both of them, and I'm not good at either one. But yeah, I could see it in Steve from the beginning. And I could tell Steve wasn't going to be the guy to work at a regular job every day. It just wasn't what he wanted.
He always did draw well, and painted well when he finally got some paints. And we always thought it was good, you know, of course we would, but I can see so much difference now in what he's doing. And I think he just does a wonderful job.
I vaguely remember him getting started. Looking back at it now, though, when he did start to really get serious, I wondered, I guess he really doesn't mind being hungry. I thought, you know, it wasn't the most, what I had seen. It is truly a starving artist type occupation. But he actually did hold down jobs and got married and raised a family and still was tenacious about being an artist. So I'm pretty proud of him for sticking with it. That's a lot of character. It's amazing what 40 years of tenacity will do with anybody in any job, in any passion that you have. Steve demonstrates that. He stuck to it. And you can see the outcome in his art. It's from the time he started to where he is now is amazing.
The paintings that Steve's done of me, you know, because I always look at the horse. I don't look at me, you know, in the picture, you know, because I remember which horse I'm riding or training on or whatever at that time. And he was, you know, pretty hard up for something to paint, I think. So he come take a picture of us working cows or something or riding a horse, you know. We've got one over my fireplace that is of my buckskin horse I had at that time in front of a barn and my little dog. And so it's personal to me, the art that he'd done. And so it brings back a lot of memories.
You know, they were taking a bunch of pictures of just what we were doing and roping, and I had my boy with me. He kind of goes with me about anywhere if it has anything to do with cowboy. He's pretty ate up with it. We were just pushing some steers back, and Steve painted a picture of it, and it was just, you know, that to me was I don't even know how to explain it. It just meant a lot to me, the way he painted that and what he captured in that painting was everything that I felt about it. And I'm not a big feelings guy, but when I look at that, you know, I look at my son, to me it really captured a lot of how I feel about my family and about what I do. And it was a pretty simple painting, pretty important to me. And that painting gets, that's the mantelpiece in my house.
We didn't realize at one time that he was not seeing things clearly. And we didn't understand why until we took him to an eye doctor, and an eye doctor said, well, he couldn't see clearly. And whenever he put those glasses on and he began to see things, it's almost like a whole new world in detail to him. From that point on, that detail was so important to him because it was like a new world that it really enhanced his ability to want to put things together.
You know, when you look at cinema through the last 100 years, I suppose, cowboy culture has always been a huge part of it, you know, and they romanticize cowboy life. And I've often said that people love the idea of a cowboy. Very few of them actually like doing it. You see a lot of attrition in what we do, and kids that grow up and want to be a cowboy and they go out and try it, and they wind up working in a mine or driving a truck or a tractor, you know, whatever it is. But Steve's art gives you a real look at what goes on. Steve gives you that real look, and that's I think why he's so important, because agricultural industry in today's light is not very favorable based on the exception that some people see, and Steve brings that back to legitimacy and back to the real world of what actually is going on in our industry, and not just the Hollywood romanticization, is that a word? You know, of cowboys.
He has tried and true techniques that you're not going to learn anywhere else. Nobody can copy what he's doing. There's so much feeling in them. So they're rich, the sunsets, the sunrise, anatomy of the horses. He knows it inside and out, and it comes through in every painting. I love having that in here. Horse people know when they see his paintings, this is someone who knows a horse.
If you have a passion for something, that's what you want to do. That's all you want to do. Again, that goes back to our family and my dad. Do your best. Whatever your passion is, go for it. Do your best. And when you feel like giving up, just give yourself a day off or so, and the passion will come back, and it'll be fresh. And so I guess you could relate that to painting in my mind, and taking the backstory back to my dad and mom in some ways, you know. I'm thankful for all that discipline that was put into me, because now I had the strength to fall back on in order to be able to do what I do now. Before he passed away, about 5 years probably before he passed away, I was working as a commercial artist. And as a commercial artist, I drew and painted every day. And so one night I was especially inspired to paint a picture of him. And this picture came to my mind, and I had already taken a photo of it 2-3 years earlier. And when I came home, I was just filled with this passion for some reason to paint my dad. And so, some things just kind of come out of you overnight sometimes. And this one did. I painted a picture of him. I had this picture of him sitting on his horse in his overalls in the cold weather like we're looking at here today. And he just had his pioneer seat hat on, and he always wore like a cap. Usually a cowboy hat to go to church and stuff, but a pioneer seed cap. And I looked at that and I thought, that's just Dad. And he was sitting on his buckskin horse. And so I just chose to zero in on him and try to capture his emotion in his face and just his character. And basically, my wife could tell you it happened overnight. I started one evening, and then the very next morning, just a few touch-ups and it was done. And so I think it was a divine painting that I was supposed to do, because I was proud of my dad, And I gave that to him and Mom. And so, anyway, it's one my wife always says, that's the best painting you've ever done. It's your dad.
Hey, babies. Hip, hip. Good girl. Get him.
Okay, we'll get all set up.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just take him right in there.
Hey, rope one, drag it in.
Yeah, let me We're gonna go all the way to that. We'll square it, 3 panels wide, and then square back this way.
I'm riding Kid today. We'll see what we can get done. We're gonna try to cowboy up a little bit today and see if we can do rope some calves and drag them to the fire. And if we can't do that, we've got a nice chute to work with.
Always looking for sharp edges, wire on the wrong side, pegs on the wrong side, don't want to catch a stirrup on something. The group of calves will be back over here. We'll have our branding iron and working table and everything up on the left. One guy will come in, rope a calf, drag him straight through this gate. Then we'll work him from there and let him loose.
There you are. There you are, he's coming.
Thank you.
That's what I do Oh, no, no, he's already loaded. Yeah, there you go.
Is it girl? It's a girl. It's a girl. I don't want to get you.
Ow!
Stop it. Woo!
Oh, got one.
You got one?
Oh, there's one. I thought I had
Bring
two.
it. That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, bull.
1 foot.
That one.
That's all right.
That's all right.
Yep. Other side. Nope.
Good bull. Easy boy.
Little smoke in your face.
Wrong side, yeah. Going back.
Yeah, I got him.
Got rope?
There we go. Got one.
Got two.
We got two.
Good flip.
Ready?
Yep.
Stop. Stop it. I'm gonna break it. Rock it a little.
Yeah. That'll work.
Okay.
We'll just do one, I guess.
Yeah, that one's stout. Yep. Hold it still.
To be a cowboy means loyalty, a man of your word, and a lot of times to just make a promise with a handshake and follow through with that. And that's what I think the Cowboy Code's all about. To be a cowboy, you gotta know how to take care of cattle. And in order to do that, I think a real cowboy needs to know how to ride a horse and work with a horse and the cattle in a way that gets the job done in an easy way. And that takes years of experience.
You just got a cowboy up, dude.
We're fortunate as a family to have been raised on a ranch and have been through horsemanship and have learned how to handle cattle in an easy, gentle way so that it's not rough on them, because that's our livelihood when we do that. And that's the heart of a cowboy, because it's important to take care of them cattle, it's important to take care of your horse. I think that's the essence of a cowboy, someone who's caring, passionate about his animals, his horses. There's a huge freedom in that.
What does it mean to me to be a cowboy? Well, first of all, it's right in the name. A boy that has cows and handles cattle. Sometimes that perspective is just someone that wears a hat and does different things, but originally, how does that term cowboy come together? It's people that learn to be stewards of cattle. You have to have a love for the animals and their well-being, but also have an understanding of the purpose that they're here for, and that you're a steward of that for the time that you have them. And the fact is, every year there's 4 seasons that come and go, and they're like clockwork, and you have to fit that timing into those seasons. And every year, the things that come up out of that land comes back every single year and filters through the economy and produces that food. In the same way with those new calves that are born, they're that renewable resource that comes and partakes in those herbs and those grasses and creates this product. And then it goes away and it's utilized throughout the economy for the benefit of people and the service. And then you get fit right back into those same 4 seasons, and you time that up to continue that process. Year after year, decade after decade, generation after generation.
When you take care of your animal, they take care of you. They have personalities, just like people do. And my dad taught us to look at their eyes. Even we could tell which way a cow was going to go next if we'd watch their head and their eyes. And the same way with the horse, if you're sensitive to them, they're super sensitive to us. And their ears move, and a lot of people don't know that, but when they move their ears back and forth, they're listening and watching us with their ears, and they're thinking always of us. And a good horse, a good cow horse, will really protect you. If they stumble or something, they'll shift their weight just sometimes to keep you on. They are just that in tune with their rider. And if you work with them and love them, they know that. They know if you love them or not.
You're the caretaker, you're the steward, and every animal that comes upon that place, it's up to you to be the midwife to the cow when she's having the calf if necessary, making sure that every need is taken care of for those newborn calves. And to lose one almost tears you up, because that's one loss that you want to try to protect. It's ingrained in you. So when that one calf is missing, you'll go to the ends of the earth to find it and bring it back. Because every seed, every animal's vital and important, and it's your job to take care of it and be a steward of those things.
I might have a unique perspective on how it feels to be a part of the cowboy way of life because I was born into a family that lived in the city. Very small place, but nevertheless, I didn't know the country life. My mom remarried a police officer. She became a police officer. And the shift work, made the doors were swinging. The TV was always on. The scanner was always rolling. Lots of noise. It was just a fast-paced life. So I go to college and ended up meeting Thon and fell in love with him and his ethics and his kind heart. And the more I got to know him, I thought, this is the cowboy way of life. I see Thon as being someone that cares so much about the earth. He cares so much about the livestock that God has given us. He doesn't cry very often, but if he does, it normally involves an animal or a crop that you've lost. We just got hailed out and last summer lost 3 circles of corn and we just cried. We're like, Lord, I know you're gonna get us through this, but I don't think everybody understands the passion that cowboys have for life and for agriculture and for others. And then when that spills over to other people, like it spills over from Thon and from Steve and from their family to other people, then you feel that love that is so sincere.
Well, to be a cowboy, I think it's heart. It means faith. Family is very important. Friends. Hard work. Commitment. And back to faith. We put a lot into everything we do. We put everything out every year and pray that it comes back in. And that takes faith. And God's been good to us. We have our struggles. We have, just like everybody does. Everybody in their own world does. But I think it takes faith. We always say, well, we're going to have a better year next year. Move right on.
If you're in agriculture, you're naturally connected to the land because the land is the source for the resources for everything that's done. What we are stewards of the land, and we're not here to use it or misuse it, but to use it for the right purpose, protect it, and make sure it's renewable and continues to produce.
Whenever I was in college, we learned not only how to optimize what you use on the farm, but how to take care of it so your next generation can still have that. You're not only using it, but you're improving it along the way.
It's the base of where everything comes from. You're creating the basis for a lot of other people around you that don't even know about it.
Our animals come first. When my boys were younger and they had show cattle, they would feed them daily. Thon would say, have you fed your calves? You don't eat till you feed your calves. So chores are done first, and then it's you. His goal was to teach the boys to put others first and show that you care about their needs more than you care about your needs. And I think that's so important. I do. Same with the land. If we're about ready to go to bed and we figure out there's a sprinkler off, he's putting back on his boots and he's going down, because that comes first. Those crops need that moisture.
Family is, to me, very important. And I think most ranches, most cowboys, have that to hang on to. It's a way of life. It's an occupation, but it's also just a way of life. The horse and the cows and it's all personal. There's a relationship with you and your horse, you and your dog, and you and your family, you and your, had all together. So we work together and we play together as a family. When we train a horse or work with a horse, the principles that are there are a lot the same as you do when you raise a family. And a lot of the same as God's principles towards our life. So when I'm working with a horse or anything, I look at myself and how I want to be treated in life. How do I, because we try to be kind, you try to be courteous, you have cowboy etiquette, it goes that way in a long way. So to be a cowboy entails all of those things, not only to put on the hat or the boots or spurs or whatever, that's an image, but a cowboy's in the heart.
I think in a lot of senses, in a lot of people's hearts, they want to be a cowboy. They have this vision. It's not as easy as they think, but it takes a lifetime to create a cowboy. Just like anything else people do, they have a passion for it. I just think that the code of a cowboy is never give up, no matter what. But there's a lot of people that do quit and go to something else. I've done a lot of things in my life, but I've never, ever left that feeling and that passion for being what I was raised, no matter where I live. And that's a cowboy. The show Art of a Cowboy came about by kind of an odd deal. I had some paintings in a gallery in Pawhuska, Oklahoma, and there was a lady, a patron, that came in and complimented my paintings and was interested. So the gallery owner called me and said, there's these people that really like your work, and I recognized their name. And I got to thinking about all of the years that I had painted. I'd come home and work cattle with my brothers over and over and over, and I'd paint my brothers over and over and over. And I needed more material to paint from. So I called the people that owned this ranch, and I said, would you mind if I came out one day and just work cattle with you guys and actually just take pictures, I know you don't know me very well, but I need more material to paint, for my Western pictures. I need different people, different guys.
Steve and I met out of the blue on the phone. He had just finished working for the Oklahoman as an illustrator, and he was looking for the next step in life. Not 6 months after that, he was sitting on the back of a truck, bouncing around some of the rough gravel roads in the Osage, taking pictures of my family, gathering up some cattle to work calves, and got some really good pictures that he turned into spectacular art. We were thinking he might be able to paint himself roping two heels with a paintbrush, but we didn't know that he also had that same skill on a horse, and he did. He was ripping through them quicker than we could keep them branded. So it was interesting to see. It was definitely a change of pace. He's legitimate.
Being there all day long with him, watching him work cattle and getting to take a lot of photos. I think I took about 1,200 photos that day. As I was driving home from that, about midnight, 1 in the morning, it was a full day, this idea came to me that I would like to go all over the whole United States and get photos for my pictures, photos for more material. I didn't think about it being a show for sure because I just had no idea. But all I needed was more material. So in my mind, I thought, how can I do this? It was probably about 2 years later that I was in a one-man show in Edmond, Oklahoma. Met a publicist. Her name was Sarai Kami. I asked her what she did for a while, and pretty soon she said, well, what do you want to do? What is your passion? What do you want to do? And I told her about the going all over the country and finding these ranches and having more material to paint from. And I thought it was just really neat because I'm passionate about ranching and cowboying. And she said, that's a TV show, Steve. We found funding the same day. We found the idea the same day. And by the end of the day, we had a plan to do a TV show. I called my family here on the 3 Point Ranch and said, I know this sounds weird, but can we come and shoot a movie or film at your place this weekend, 5 days from now?
Yeah, when Steve called and said, I had a job change, but yeah, we got this neat and crazy idea of doing a TV show. And he said, yeah, we're needing a place to go film, and it'd be all right if we come up there in a few days. Sure. Of course, I want to support Steve in every way we can because I know that art is his passion. And I said, well, yeah, sure.
Fawn tells me, hey, Steve's got this idea. He's going to come out to our ranch in so many days. And I'm like, what? But he was so proud of Steve. He was so proud of him. He was like, yeah, we're going to do this. We're going to make it work. And so I was honestly excited. I was like, really? But if anybody can do it, Steve can do it because he's just such a people person, And so we're like, okay, we'll do this. We'll be on this bandwagon.
From the very beginning, though, I wanted it to be a real natural show. I wanted it to tell the truth. Did not want any drama, And fortunately, my crews worked with me, and they have kept it that way, and they saw the vision. And I'm so very thankful for that because this show needs to be different than anything out there because I'm standing up for the American rancher.
Steve and I have been friends for, 4 or 5 years. He came in the boot shop over to Ray's and did that segment on us for cowboy boots. So that's how I kind of got to know him. And then just through the years, we've kind of roped together, and I've built him several pair of boots, and he's painted me some pictures, and kind of built a pretty good little friendship. We've kind of got that mutual camaraderie in the fact of, a guy stepping out on nothingness and trying to make something out of it. Steve loves the Lord, and that's something that's important to me, as far as who I associate with. So we, again, we kind of have that mutual bond and tradecraft, I guess, if you will, of what we do and what we're trying to accomplish. That shop over there is just, it's as cowboy gets. And I was glad to see the other guys, Harlan Hackett, did the rawhide braiding. I was kind of glad to see that Steve was trying to focus on cowboys, not just craftsmen or tradesmen, but guys that had actually used the product that they're building. And then, when it was all done, it was kind of neat. I remember, pulling up to get gas and people come walking up to me and, oh, hey, you're the guy on TV, the boot guy. And so, it brought a lot of light to what we do and kind of helped give people a little idea as to why we do it, the actual tools. And it's not just a bag of leather wrapped around your feet. Every part of our boot has a specific purpose. So that helped, and that's I think that was pretty integral in selling boots, was that people understood there's a reason for what we do.
This was, to me, was a godsend, because we're at a time and place where we've gotten farther and farther away from the roots of that renewable resource and where it starts, it filters through the whole economy, and actually all kinds of byproducts and stuff, not only food and jobs that are built off of a cow eating grass and converting it to beef. But the key that we talked about is the authenticity and the truth. If you show them in their authentic way and catch them in their natural state, they're glad to share their story because they need an avenue to share what they do. So there's a level of appreciation for that lifestyle.
When he first started his shows and told us about it, we were so thrilled. The main reason I was thrilled for Steve was because he'd always been a cowboy. But when he went to the city and became an illustrating editor for the newspaper, I think the Daily Oklahoma newspaper and stuff, it kind of restricted him. He had to give up his chaps and his boots and his hat and all that. But this brought him back. It brought him back to what he loved. And it was his way of being able to reconnect and become who he was at heart.
In today's world, you have to think outside the box. That's exactly what Steve has done. It has made him who he is. And that takes a lot of just good old-fashioned guts to step out like that. And so that's what I thought when he started this. I thought that is really, truly admirable. That takes lots of courage and lots of faith.
Steve's show, Art of a Cowboy, resonated with me because my grandfather was a rancher and my father was a farmer. And when I saw his show on PBS, I had never seen anything like that before. As an artist, I was so intrigued because he's such a great artist, and yet it was about cowboys, which hadn't been done. It's just meaningful to carry on the traditions of cowboy and have a record of that in art. And he captures that. He captures the lifestyle of a cowboy and the relationship between the person and their animals, and it's just very, very important.
Our neighbors and our friends in our small town can watch it on their TVs. They all know where he came from and why we're proud of him. We're really proud of him. Couldn't take my eyes off from it. I thought it was so good. Yeah, he's my son, so you just have those feelings when you see something they're doing that's really great.
To see yourself and your story out there on TV is, it gets emotional. For my mother and the legacy that my dad and mom put together was really, really good to see. And basically that the fact that we want to honor them, and we want to honor Steve, we want to honor, most of all, we want to honor the Lord.
So when it first came out and we knew that we were going to be on TV, I was nervous because I'd never thought about other people being able to just see what we do. But we were so excited, and we were so excited to say, hey, this is Steve's stuff, he's doing this. And it was cool because people would watch it later. You'd be in the grocery store and they'd be like, hey, I saw you with your chickens, or whatever. And it was exciting, and it was fun, and it was an honor to be able to be a part of it.
And then to see the painting afterwards was really cool, to see how, he chose, okay, you got this picture here, and then to get to watch him start to finish, and then you really know the story behind that painting, and it gives you that depth, that painting that we talked about knowing, and you can feel what's going on. And then maybe someone else can understand through that painting as well that there's a lot that these guys do that Steve can show in those paintings.
I think there's certainly an art to be a cowboy. It takes the same amount of determination and skill that it would be to be an artist. The Art of the Cowboy series highlights that. There's several things that, even me sitting here doesn't really think about being a cowboy means. And the film captures that, puts it in front of the viewer, and just completely redefines being a cowboy, I believe. And he's done, a spectacular job capturing these images and putting them to paint, putting them to charcoal, putting them to, whatever medium he sees fit.
The fact that everything's being documented, we can go back later in life, even if they're gone, and say, you know, this is the kind of stuff he used to do, or this was his favorite painting, or this was why we're here, this is how we became, this is what the ranch was before, and this is kind of what it is now, and just explain all the differences and what kind of went through.
When I see how Art of a Cowboy has brought the art, the show together, it's done exceptionally well because of who Steve is. When you say Art of a Cowboy, I hear Heart of a Cowboy. I think that is what makes Art of a Cowboy so great, is Steve.
Whenever you're captured in art, the way Steve captures you, you're kind of immortal, you know? It's a fun way to pass that heritage down, pass that legacy down.
The neatest thing I think that I figured out from this was they get to tell their story. At first I felt this responsibility to tell this story for them. I don't have to. I just get to tell their story through paintings. And they get to actually tell their own stories.
There you go. Oh, there you go.
I'm Jack Frederick Drummond, Gintner Frederick Drummond's youngest son, and I get to continue that legacy. It's terrifying. It's awesome. I get to, on a daily basis, do 10 different things. I get to be the generator of the science, if you will. I get to put scientific method into practice out here. I get to work with the best cowboys in the county. Be a mechanic, be a fence builder, be a vet, be a feed truck driver, be the businessman behind the desk right here. You know, I get to build budgets, I get to communicate ideas. Anyone in my position would be all of that. It's not special to me. I just get to do it on this ranch that my family has operated.
In the early 1890s, my great-great-grandfather left Scotland as a second born.
Frederick Drummond originally immigrated from Scotland, went to New York, tried out there as a businessman, and moved down to Texas to try his hand in cattle. And actually wound up failing down there, and so he moved up north to Indian Territory in Oklahoma.
Was a mercantile man and married a lovely woman from Missouri who was a German immigrant. Her name was Adeline Gentner. And the two of them opened up the trading post in Hominy, Oklahoma, that is presently known as the Pioneer Store building. And from that genesis grew the Drummond Ranch. His oldest son, my great-grandfather, Roy Cecil Drummond, became the patriarch of the current Drummond Ranch.
In his time frame, he started with not owning any land here in Osage County, and by his death, put together a little over 100,000 acres. Throughout the years, that's obviously been split up throughout the generations to different families of Drummonds, but we maintain the original piece of land that he started on 7 miles east of Hominy, and that's right next to where our headquarters is today. The FD, or Frederick Drummond, has been the original brand that my family began using all those years ago. We brand that brand on the left hip of every single one of our animals that's born out here. We're very proud of that brand and the legacy that it holds. A legacy of 6 generations of cattle ranchers, and now with the 7th generation, we're definitely very proud of that brand and what it stands for and all the years that it has stood the test of time throughout the cattle industry. Went from Frederick down to RC. RC passed it on to his son Gint, and then his son Leslie. Leslie is my grandfather, and then my father Gintner. Currently, Gintner is the overarching owner of the ranch, and then Jack, my younger brother, is the current manager of the ranch. And then me out here as often as I can on the side from my military career.
I grew up on the south side of the ranch, lived my entire life in the Hominy, Oklahoma area. In my early teens, I befriended an elderly woman that leased us 3,500 acres in the middle of our ranch. Her name was Mrs. McKenzie. I would check on her every week, bring her pies on her birthday. When she turned 85, she was ready to retire and move in to Pawhuska, and said, you know, Gentner, I'm going to sell you my ranch. And I said, well, Mrs. McKenzie, I'm 14 years old. And she goes, well, I've talked to an attorney who's willing to represent you, and he's going to emancipate you. You're going to buy my ranch, move into my home, and run this ranch. And became an emancipated adult, became a landowner of that acreage with my 2 younger brothers. We began then in competition with my father as young ranchers, ended up consolidating our herds and consolidating our ownership of land into then my father's name, Leslie F. Drummond and Sons Partnership. Ultimately buying out my siblings and changing the name to Drummond Ranch, LLC. Joined the military, was commissioned as a 2nd lieutenant in the United States Air Force, went to flight school, earned the F-15 fighter jet, flew the fighter jet for 8 years for our Air Force, got out, went to law school at Georgetown Law, and then came back to Oklahoma and picked up a cattle operation of my own, a stocker operation, ultimately buying out my father's cow-calf operation. between 1995 and the present, I've run a stocker and a cow-calf operation. I have 4 children. One's a physician, one's a fighter pilot, one's a banker, and Jack, who's presently managing the ranch, was an Oklahoma State animal science graduate. As he neared his graduation, said, "Dad, I'm ready to come back to the ranch." And I said, "No, there's a 5-year waiting period for anybody." So he went and worked in a feedlot operation in southwest Kansas. Then he got his graduate training at Texas Ranching School, and now he's back managing the ranch.
Get him on.
It's been a journey. I've always admired this ranch from the beginning. To better understand my family's ranch, I had to learn first other people's ranches. And that has allowed me to blossom into coming home to my family's ranch and learn from the men that know this ranch best. And that's our cowboys.
Ten. Yeah. Hey, 25. Balance.
Trucks and trailers, we're able to get from one side of the ranch to the other pretty quickly. Even back, I can remember hearing stories from my grandfather. They'd wake up 2 or 3 in the morning, saddle a string of horses, and they'd ride 3 or 4 hours from the south side of the ranch to the middle or the north side of the ranch to go work cattle, doing all that riding throughout the dark and then getting there at sunup so they could get the full breadth of the day's work in before riding all the way back home. And our family directly has done a lot of growing through the last couple of years. We feel blessed to have it. My father has always talked to me about being a steward of the land, of the animals, both the natural resources and those that we bring in. It's a hard way to make a living, but it's a very rewarding one. Just the natural raw beauty, the sunrise, sunset every day definitely keeps you grounded and lets you know that even though we have problems in our lives, typically they're a lot smaller via a whole scope of the land that you're surrounded by.
A day in the life of Jack Drummond would be starting around sunup. We get horses taken care of, muck stalls. I might load up a ton of mineral and go around to all my pastures that I take care of. My favorite chore on the ranch is anything involving black-hided cattle and a fine horse. I don't care whether that's working calves, I don't care whether that's weaning calves, I don't care whether that's pushing cattle around and moving pastures. It's all part of it.
Depends on what time of year it is. Feed in the winter, fence in the summer.
So a little bit of everything. Fix pants, take care of cattle.
Working fall calves, and in summertime we're putting them in water gaps and fixing fence, and working spring calves.
After feeding season, go around some fences, take care of them, work calves, wean the calves after that.
And I enjoy doing it, all of it. If you love what you do, that ain't nothing, you like it all. It's what I was brought up to do. It's the way I was brought up, so. Like I say, I like to do it, so.
We try to get out and prowl those calves as often as possible, kind of keep them tame. Used to seeing a horse and a rider or driving through the truck and hearing a siren. Then also obviously keeping eyes on them, looking for any animals that are sick, having any types of issues that you can go ahead and doctor and get in front of before they become some type of ailment that leads to a death or just to a chronic animal that then can't be sold.
I like shaping up cattle the best, you know, shaping up a set of yearlings to get ready for grass.
Probably working calves is probably the funnest. Have a lot of good times doing that.
I like the freedom of it and being in one with Mother Nature, you know, and not having to deal with a whole lot of people. About as close as you can get, I reckon, to being up there in heaven, you know. I mean, it's pretty awesome.
We're going to implant some steers, re-implant the steers for spring grazing, and then implant some heifers. Yesterday we ran all of our replacement heifers through, pulled off any of the non-keepers, which means they're going to grass to eventually go to a feedlot. And so they've never had an implant. We're gonna put an implant in their ear, get a little bit more gain out of them, slap them on some grass, and here in about 90 days, we'll see how they did. Point two. To me, it means willing to go the extra mile, willing to get up before dawn, stay out working until after dark. You gotta be able to suffer a little bit to be a cowboy. Just continue to push the envelope along. You know, you just gotta saddle up and ride sometimes to be a cowboy. And that means through some of the roughest droughts, through some of the roughest storms, through some of the hardest times financially, you've just got to always be willing to go. All the good cowboys I've ever seen don't quit, and I don't plan to. I think to be a cowboy, you gotta perfect your form, perfect your art, perfect your skills, and just show up. So many people nowadays don't show up. They forget that part. And so to be a cowboy, you gotta show up.
It's a respect for others, respect for the land. It's always searching to have a deeper connection with those things and to do right by them. Not being afraid of work, because there's a lot of work, a lot of long, hard days and rough country and hot and cold, bitter weather. Whether it's raining or snowing or 110 out, you know, they're a tough breed.
That's just the way I was brought up, and I want to keep doing it. And I got a boy coming on. I want to see him do it. And like I said, there's nothing hard about it. If you love what you do, there's nothing hard about it. If you enjoy it. And it is hard work at times, but it doesn't bother me. I wouldn't trade it for nothing.
Justin and I have been through every stage of friendship. He knows every little hole, every wire gate, and every fence. I mean, he just knows this ranch like the back of his hand. Whenever my grandfather was still alive, he was the go-to pseudo manager. He could jump in if Leslie had to be gone somewhere and run this ranch just like any cattleman could. And so after my grandfather died, Justin took over. He has gone through, until I got back, 10 years of managing this ranch. So whenever I came back, it was a transition. You know, you got the next generation coming in, and the older generation feels like they're getting pushed out. So over the last year, I've been working with him to make sure he doesn't feel like he's getting pushed out.
I think that we take a resource that we have a lot of, grass, which is not palatable to humans, put cattle on it. They're a machine that turn grass into delicious beef. So I think that we're able to keep the land natural, be able to keep it the way God created it, and use it for its strength, which is to produce grass, and to put a grazing animal that's not hard on it as long as it's managed properly, cattle, and then be able to enjoy the product of beef.
Without ranches and without farmers and cowboys and all of that, I feel like the world wouldn't go round as well as it does. So I think it's very important someday whenever I have a family to expose them to the ranch life, to the country life. They'll look into working cattle or, getting their eggs from the chicken coop, or farming and gardening and all sorts of things. I think it's really important. Just being a part of the ranch and seeing that will give them a good work ethic, kind of what we have had growing up on the ranch with our dad.
The beautiful thing about ranching is it is the embodiment of the American dream. You live on the land, you're the ultimate environmentalist that makes sure that the land is healthy and safe and sound. You provide for water, grass, trees. And perpetuate that American lifestyle. And it is what America was built on, ranching and farming and agricultural interests.
Not only did this ranch inspire Art of a Cowboy by having some good cowboys on here and on my ride home just deciding this is what I wanted to do, it has beautiful scenery too. So it's nice to get out and paint some of this beautiful scenery while we're here. So I just love some of these pictures that we come across here on this this ranch, because all of a sudden it's just out in the plain wide open, and all of a sudden you get these deep crevices down in here. So mostly I paint cowboys, but I like to do these studies out here. Well, what I'm doing here is just basically blocking in the darks and the lights, getting the undertones of things. This water's kind of hard because it's got a basically under darkness to it. Before you put on any lights, you have to put the dark underneath. And so these here, just the little parts of light hitting on the water as it goes down the creek here. You know what I think is pretty neat about being out here is, as a cowboy or as people in general, when they see beautiful scenery, and they also are cowboys, and they ride this country, the connection between them is really important. And I think that helps me when I paint these scenes out here and hear the sounds, and it's just a peaceful place. So this is just almost as fun to me as riding a horse and driving cattle, but maybe a little less at times. So anyway, it is important to have this connection with the land. Some of the neatest things about being on a ranch like this and getting out here to see these beautiful spots is painting them. And of course you do your best you can while you're here, but man, it's just beautiful sitting around here looking at this beautiful scenery and getting to ride horses and rope and meet a wonderful family like this. So I think we found a really good location today.
You don't even know, Luke. You lucky duck. Got both parents' attention. Poor third born. You see your doggy? Where'd your doggy go? Jet!
We have time. We could stick around and ride.
I know, I'll have to get... Luke, you want to ride a horsey? You want to ride a horse? Yeah. I have to get you on a horse.
Oh, yeah. What's your horsey sound?
What's a horsey say?
Being a drummin means being something bigger than yourself. It means being tied into the history. It means inheriting the land and the animals, the name, the reputation. Being a drummin for me has been really thinking intergenerationally. You know, what has everyone done before me and what am I standing on? What can I do right now? And then what am I gonna leave my kids? And that's it's a lot of responsibility, but it's also an amazing opportunity. I feel pretty blessed to have married into a family that can do something that way and be a part of a legacy that's been, generations in the making.
It's a proud, long legacy of being connected to the land, of being a steward, and being involved in the agricultural business. It really means to be a steward. I think that when you really boil it down, that's why we've been able to be successful throughout these years. And I think that that's why we'll continue to be successful, is to see the land as something that isn't ours in the long term. It's something that we're taking care of right now. I believe that stewardship was the first job created for man by God to Adam, and I think that that is one of the highest callings even today. Take care of the land and the animals that were given to us by God. Teach that lesson of stewardship to the next generation and to the next and to the next, and let that become the legacy that we pass on.
That's what it takes for this ranch to be successful, and that is the younger generation looking to the older generation with respect, and the older generation with the flexibility of seeing what the new generation can bring to the ranch. And it's that rejuvenation of ideas with fresh eyes that see the benefits of an alteration of something that we've maybe done for 70 or 80 years. And that's what keeps it new and renews.
My father, he's the one that instilled that stewardship role into my life, and he has lived up to that, those teachings that he taught in those young years. He is ready to let go of the reins for the ranch as much as he can, to let the next generation take over. Obviously, he wants to be involved as much as he can, whether that's on the business side or just being out in the work or being out on the ranch itself.
Legacy to me is honoring your ancestors while living for your descendants. I've got to live sustainably so that I can preserve our legacy and setting up my descendants to continue that.
I had a lot of friends that are from Oklahoma and knew like the Drummond name and just the history behind what is the Drummond Ranch. And for me, I was kind of just like, oh, like, okay, he's a Drummond, whatever. I didn't know the weight that it held. And so now being in it, you know, it is so much about loyalty. It is so much about just being there for one another and working hard and just putting the best face forward in everything that you do. They truly want you to be 100% a part of the family, which is incredible. But with that comes a lot of weight and responsibility. And so that has been just a transition of like understanding, you know, what that looks like day to day. I've enjoyed it and I wouldn't truly have it any other way.
The Drummond family is drawn to the land. We're a Scottish clan, frankly transplanted from the Edinburgh area. This expectation that we take what we were given, never believe that it's ours, that we're simply stewards that take, improve, enlarge, and pass. And with that kind of mentality, the Drummond Ranch will exist, has existed for over 100 years, and will exist for several hundred more years. It was instilled in us that if you ever consider the land yours, you will almost certainly lose it. But if you are just gently enjoying the benefit of the land, enhance its value, improve its capabilities, and pass it on in a manner more improved and better than what you found it, with that same sentiment passed on each generation, the likelihood of its longevity is high. And so although I'm presently the owner of the Drummond Ranch, I have no possessive feeling with regard to the real estate. It's simply there, bequeathed to this family through hard efforts and the benevolence of God, and the expectation is that we just move it through the next generation to the next and the next.
Well, there's something about being out here on our own land at the Boaldin Ranch, and then taking in consideration the land with the Drummond Ranch that we're on. And to me, this painting is inspired by the broad spectrum of sunset, sunlight, big land, and cowboys. Of course, Art of a Cowboy always talks about the real cowboy, and it's how he makes a deal with a handshake. And we just so happen to have a great picture of the Alexander and Jack shaking hands with this beautiful sunset behind them, and it inspired me to paint this painting. But it's the same when you're looking at a sky, whether you're in the panhandle of Oklahoma or clear up on the Pawhuska side of Oklahoma, Tulsa area. It doesn't matter, the sunsets are beautiful. And for me to do this piece, I knew it was going to be, when we saw the photos coming back, I knew it was going to be one of the main paintings for them. Possibly the ultimate painting for them. Depends on what they feel, but I feel very strongly about this one, and usually when I feel real strongly about the photo or what we got when we go, that's usually the one I want to start right away. And so this is the first one that I've done with Jack and Alexander. And I think it tells a story. I think it's the message is, you know, the cowboy way, you know, the long days and the evenings and the authenticity of a cowboy. You know, making a deal with a handshake and being honest and true to your word is what a cowboy does and works hard. All of that makes him worth a handshake. So that's kind of the idea behind this painting, is the honesty of a cowboy, and Art of a Cowboy wants to show that. be a cowboy is more than just a lifestyle. I don't live on a ranch. I haven't owned a horse in years. What makes me a cowboy are the principles instilled in me by my parents and my faith in God. It means to care for the land and the animals, to do right by others, and live in a way that honors the Lord. The art I create and the stories I help to tell are just a reflection of the art I see in each cowboy I paint. That is the true art of a cowboy. Da 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 da. Da 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 da.
And you can keep these, concise, powerful.
Concise, powerful.
And the last two, I think, will bring some more emotion. But
Okay. No.
C. Steve.
Yeah.
C.
C.
Alright.
No.
Well, roll it.
Okay.
No. Roll it.
Don't pay attention. Like that. That way they don't get away. I'm Steve Boaldin. I'm not a cowboy artist.
Bigger loop. Bigger loop. A little closer. There we go. Horse loop. I'm Steve Boaldin. I'm a cowboy artist. You gotta tell me when to stop. You gotta tell me when to stop.